Now that the trade deadline has come and gone, we are starting to feel the impact in the fantasy world, and Matt and I have some must-add players who have benefited from it and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes you to the channel and gives you notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, most importantly to Matt and I, guys, give us a shot on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth, one-on-one personalized experience through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, you can find the link to join us in the bio wherever you're listening or watching. If not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And all right, folks, as I said at the top, the trade deadline was very interesting. We had some big moves, some medium-sized moves, and today we do have some players that were impacted by the trade deadline that, are now relevant or, have moved and, are going to be able to help some of our teams. And then, we got some usual guys, that maybe weren't impacted by the deadline, but we feel are must add. So they are in the mix as well. And Matt, my brother, why don't you take your pick and lead the way today?
All right, no doubt. And let's start off with Hayden Birdsong, somebody I just been hovering my finger around whether I should add him or not. And I kind of wanted to pull the trigger, but unfortunately Dom beat me to the punch. But he's somebody that I've been fiddling around with, and he's had a pretty good year so far. Honestly, his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts have been fantastic. Didn't give up a single run against the Colorado Rockies on July 27th. 8 Ks, the win, a 1-2 whip. Then handled himself again against Colorado in Coors Stadium this time. 12 Ks this time through 6 with a 3 ERA. And then handled Minnesota, handled the Cleveland Guardians, and handled Atlanta Braves. All great at great tests to see what this kid could actually be. And I like a couple other advanced stats I found on FanGraphs as well. You look at what he was doing in the minors last year in terms of K percentage. He was striking out guys at 22.9% of the time. He gets to the bigs, and now he's at 30.2% of the time. So he got better as he got there. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that he's walking guys a little bit more, which I think will come down at some point. But what I really like, the number that really screams at me, is he's creating ground balls at a 44.9% rip. He's looking fantastic in all those kind of tangibles that say, hey, a pitcher's going to be successful in those terms. So I like Hayden Birdsong. I hope that he gets another start outside of this week because, right now, if you go look at him, he has the NA marker on next to his name in Yahoo. But I think he'll probably get a start next week. I think there is, a room for him and a desire to want him starting in that rotation. So I'm going out there and I'm smashing Hayden Birdsong of the, San Francisco Giants at 28% owned.
So, Matt, I'm going to chime in there, right, which you said. I'm a big Birdsong guy myself. As you mentioned, I picked him up in a couple of leagues today before we recorded. 28% owned for Birdsong, once again, started pitching for the San Francisco Giants. So the thing is, we were talking about guys impacted by the deadline. I think Birdsong is one of those guys. So the Giants manager, Bob Melvin, actually confirmed that Birdsong is going to rejoin the rotation after the Alex Cobb trade. They shipped Cobb off to the Guardians. He's going to start on Tuesday against the Nationals. So I think we need to preemptively get him in our rosters now for that upcoming start on Tuesday. And it's a great team to pitch against in the Nationals. Not too much to be fearful against with them. But Matt, I pretty much could echo all the sentiments with Birdsong that you mentioned. 4 pitches that he throws, all of them at least 16% of the time. Big fastball on Birdsong, good slider, good curveball. Gonna love to see more of this kid who had a great track record in the minors too, was a big strikeout guy down there. Hoping he can do more of the same in the bigs at 22 years old. I really like what Hayden Birdsong brings to the table. Let's move on to a New York Met. Let's talk some Sean Manaea, another guy that was really good in his last start. Somebody not so much impacted by, the trade deadline. We've been talking about Manaea all season. We've been dropping him, picking him back up, but I really think he's found some consistency of late with those New York Mets. Manaea's 42% owned. In his last start against Minnesota, 7 innings, 11 strikeouts, no earned runs, an 0.43 whip, got the win in that one, and has just been pretty solid of late. Mixed in a couple of bad starts in his last, 6, but has been pretty good otherwise. We know who Manaea is, has solid stuff, controls a little bit iffy at times, can suppress runs around that K per 9, has really found a home this season with the Mets. I like him at 42% owned. This is a guy that I think when pitchers have not been as consistent as they were in the first half, that should be closer to honestly probably 80% owned with the way he's been pitching of late. Let's get Sean Manaea on our teams.
Yeah, and we've been talking about Manaea for weeks. Like, hey, you need to get him on your team. The 2 matchups are great for next week too. I'm just all kind of like about what he's going to go through. Did you mention the matchups? I really wasn't paying attention.
I did not actually.
All right, so he's going up against St. Louis, and then the other team is I lost that. I will circle back to that. But ultimately, the matchups are great for next week. So he is a good 2-star pitcher, and I'm kind of like all excited for that. Part of the reason why he was on this podcast today, other than the fact that he's been performing as late as pretty well. So yeah. I'm just going to get that for us real fast. Sorry for being so unprepared, but here we
Seattle,
go.
Man. Seattle,
Yeah,
at Seattle. Good park, right. Great park to pitch in.
Right. And you know what? With Julio down and even with the new additions to the team, I'm not too scared. I think it's going to be a solid start.
Blanco might be hurt again.
Yeah, so I know. We actually had him on the list, and then we saw he was dealing with a knee injury, so he kind of got the boot. But anyway, Sean Manaea is going to be great next week. Let's move on. Let's talk about, Tyler Mahle, guy coming off the IL. He is who he is. Let's put it that way, right? He's on the Texas Rangers, which, they do need some pitching help. And, he should be back soon. It looks like he's going to start next week. He has a brutal matchups next week where he's going up against Houston and New York Yankees. And, not my favorite matchup to come back, but he's looked good in the minors. He's looked good to a point where, like, okay, do I really want to start off the week against the Astros? Maybe. Depends on how frisky. Depends on how many guys he's got going against you this week. On the first Monday of the week, you might just be like, okay, cool. Like, let me get Tyler Mahle out there, and then consider the second start against the Yankees. And I probably wouldn't with the addition of Jazz and the way everybody's kind of been hitting the ball over there. But Tyler Mahle has some serious upside. If not next week, it's going to be the week after when he gets a little bit more of more comfortable matchup where I could feel great about him. You look at what he did in 2021, which is like the last time he even put in, a full season, right? Through a full season, he had 180 innings pitched. He had 210 strikeouts. His fastball usually sits between 93 and 94 miles per hour. Doesn't really give up a lot of hard contact. Is able to get the Ks, obviously, by you see the innings to strikeout numbers, and it doesn't allow guys to barrel up. He's good. You look back at like 22 where he did get injured, but he had 120 innings pitched. A lot of blue in that, but I think it was more of the injury was lingering a little bit more. He had a higher ERA of like 4.40. And then 23, right when he got injured, that's put him out for most of the year. There was 25 innings. He looked good at 3.16 ERA. He had 25 innings pitched with 28 strikeouts. He was, doing the regular Tyler Mahle thing. And I think we would have saw a pretty decent, usable season. He's only 29, which is kind of like the wild thing because I feel like he's been in the league for such a long time that like I kind of want him on my team. I like the landing spot. I like the team himself that he's on. So like Tyler Mahle, I feel should be added and started probably against the Astros and sat against the Yankees next week.
Man, honestly, that was a fantastic take. You're super on point. I couldn't have broke Mahle down better myself. I did have things prepared to say, but you said them all. So you know what? We have 2 fantastic closers and some really, really great bats coming up next. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody all day, all summer long. And guys, with this MLB season, it's been so exciting. We talked about the trade deadline, and FanDuel offers so many different fun and interesting kinds of bets. You got to get in on it. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer now. And guys, you can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining the SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch over to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for your everyday to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And then once again, Matt and I are introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As this season continues to unfold, you can rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where the path to your victories will begin. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. And boy, oh boy, that is always fun, but it is certainly a lot. So you know what, Matt? I think we're going to talk some closers up next, and can you handle the first one for us?
Yeah, I can. And
Thanks.
It's Ben Joyce of the Los Angeles Angels. You know, after Estevez being traded off, and then Garcia following right after him. Ben Joyce seems to be like the most probable pitcher. Now they got Stripling there, who got the save the other night, but then Joyce came in and got the save was put in a position to get a save, but ended up not getting it. He should get worked in as a closer until they can kind of decide. Right now, it looks like it's going to be a committee. I'm trying to add him just out of speculation, hoping that he's the one that can kind of lock up the job. Ben Joyce kind of on the season has just struggles with control, but throws a monster fastball at like 101.3 mile per hour. And that's kind of one of the more attractive things for me. You know, right now too, like he's like 2Ks under 9 right now too. If he can get that over, you know, Ben Joyce could be somebody that could be pretty valuable. Could be the next Carlos Estevez, essentially, that comes off this team and kind of takes a step forward, because Estevez came out of nowhere last year. Let's see if Ben Joyce can follow in suit.
Yeah, Matt, I'm there with you on Ben Joyce. I'm a big fan. You know, he was drafted a few years ago, and they kept talking about just how this guy is the future closer. If you go to Baseball Savant, it's the website we talk about a lot on this podcast. It gives you a lot of good underlying stuff. And basically, if you go to that website, Baseball Savant, type in Ben Joyce, you're going to see a lot of red. Red is very good. You know, blue isn't that great. Not so much blue. You know, a lot of red. I really like what I see from him. Matt, you did a good job breaking him down, though. Did we give out his ownership percentage, though?
I did not.
Yeah, hold on. I have it right here. Ben Joyce is currently 30% owned on Yahoo. So he's actually flying up. It's actually 22% rise for Ben Joyce over the last day since the trade. I agree. Just let's get him on our rosters. The closer shakeup has been interesting. I know there's a lot of teams out there that need closers. Let's move on to our next player, though. Let's talk a little bit of AJ Puck. And I think this is a little bit more of a speculative one, right? So the thing, Paul Sewald has been pretty bad of late. So like I said, I think this is going to be a little bit of a deeper league play. Paul Sewald has blown 2 out of his last 3 saves. And the numbers on the season are starting to look a little bit crooked. On the year for Paul Sewald, he does have 16 saves and 30 appearances, but it's a 4.39 ERA with a 1.13 WHIP, 26 innings, 28 strikeouts. Even Torrey Lavulo, the manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, was kind of commenting on his delivery, and he just hasn't looked right. So Arizona's in a position where they really need to win games. AJ Puck's been stellar since he's come over to the Diamondbacks, in the trade from the Marlins. He's just been a strikeout machine. I know he's had some struggles, but honestly, even as I look at I can't scroll back far enough to even see the last time that AJ Puck has given up a run. So this is a guy that has the arm, the talent, the pitches, to be a closer. Honestly, I think that's the perfect fit for AJ Puck, especially at this point in his career. Guys dealt with a lot of injuries. So last month for Puck, 12 innings, 2 wins, 20 strikeouts, no earned runs, and a 0.33 WHIP. So I think if there was ever a guy to speculate on potentially coming into the closer's role, it's AJ Puck, 23% owned on Yahoo. He's up 2% over the last day. I think people are starting to speculate as I'm talking about here. I really like me some AJ Puck in deeper leagues, potential closer.
Yeah, I could kind of see it. You could see like how they handled how other teams have handled closers where they send them down to go get right, like they did with they did that to somebody this year. Was it Helsley or no?
Nah, Hills has been great.
No, not Helsley. I forget who they sent down. Give me a bit. That'll come back to me later in the show. But they sent him down and then they brought him back up after he got right. Oh, Edwin Diaz. Edwin
Yep,
Diaz.
there you go.
Edwin Diaz was struggling for the whole first half, obviously so, since he came back from the injury. Same thing with Sewald. Coming back off an injury, started off the year on the IL. So Puck can kind of at least get the short-term advantage and kind of get the closer role even for like a month while they kind of fix Sewald and whatnot. So it's definitely somebody worth stashing and something that might be actionable very soon. So if you're not adding him, I'd be watching him at all costs. Let's move on to this last to our bats now, and let's talk about Eugenio Suarez of also the Arizona Diamondbacks. He is 46% owned, and this last week has been fantastic. 9 runs, 4 bombs, 8 ribs, batting .435. He had a triple dong night the other night against Washington. He's looking like he's just hitting the ball off the cover off the ball these days. And it's just nice. Obviously, the underlying stats don't show that he has any long-term prospects or aspirations for fantasy other than when he's hot, ride him, because we talked about him maybe a month ago. He has maybe a week or two where he's like valuable and you can kind of stream him in there. But then after that, you pretty much drop him like a hot potato, because I'm good. He's not going to be somebody that's going to be long-term value. Those days are long gone for Suarez. So ultimately, just stream him now. Third base eligible. And again, 46% owned, Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, Matt, great take on Suarez, and I think it's just a power play. You did a great job covering him. Not really too much else to add there. Just juice the orange when it comes to Eugenio Suarez. But coming up next, the top prospect in all of baseball is back, and we're going to talk about him.
Whenever I need to pick me up after a night out, it's a really hot day. I need to be hydrated, and now I get myself a liquid IV. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from #1 powered hydration brand in America. Because baseball and summer go together like liquid IV and indulgent hydration. Blast off with iconic summer flavors like popsicle firecracker, which actually is really fire, a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors. Find all the favorite flavors on the website and from Asia berry to lemon lime to pina colada. Feel like you're sitting on the beach. No more thirsty summers when you have an indulgent indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop better hydration today using the promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Tear, pour, live more. One stick of 16-ounce water. One stick and 16-ounce water hydrates better than a water alone. Powered by LIV Hydration Sense and optimization ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, and dairy-free, and soy-free. Again, go to liquidiv.com and use the code MLB at checkout for 20% off. And all right, with that being a new one and a tongue twister, Dom, I'm gonna hand it over to you on that one.
Now, actually, I give you credit. You were rocking about 80% of that really, really well. So no, you were rocking and rolling there for 90% of it. I'll give you. But I'm super excited to talk about this next guy, and Matt, I think you are as well. Jackson Holliday's back, and his first game back comes out strong, grand slam. And if you guys didn't watch the game, that 1 for 5 is a little bit deceiving. He was almost 2 for 5 with a double dong. I was watching a little bit of the game, and he barely missed a second home run. It missed the foul pole, but I want to say by like maybe 4 or 5 inches. It was a very close one. So I think Jackson Holliday's back, and he's ready to rock. At 20 years old, the top prospect in all of baseball. Once again, Jackson Holliday plays for those Baltimore Orioles, in case you don't know or you forgot. Son of Matt Holliday, former All-Star. Jackson Holliday also has a little brother who's going to be, a great baseball player as well. So it runs in the bloodline. I think Jackson Holliday is going to be a superstar in this league. He's not a guy you can really go and look at the underlying stuff on, because it was only 11 games or 12 games, for Jackson Holliday. So it's not really going to tell you too much, even in the minors this year. Not having a fantastic year, but good enough at 271 for the young Jackson Holliday this year across 73 games in the minors, 266 at-bats, 75 runs, 25 doubles, like that number, 38 RBIs, and 8 steals. So Jackson Holliday is a do-it-all type of player, but at 20 years old, the bumps and bruises are expected along the way. But I hate to say it like this, Jackson Holliday has league winner upside if he can really just get it rocking and rolling. If we see the steals, if we see the runs, a guy who is hitting potentially ninth, which can roll around and lead into runs for Jackson Holliday, with the top of that Orioles lineup being very strong. I just like the prospects for Jackson Holliday. There's a reason he's number one prospect in all of baseball. I think he's a must-add. I think Jackson Holliday should be universally owned at this point, and he's only 65% owned on Yahoo. A lot of leagues where he's still out there. Trade for him if you can. Trade for him before I think the wind takes off here.
Yeah, I mean, people have still stashed him all season, thinking, okay, he's going to be the guy. So maybe it's time they think they can capitalize off of a bad decision in redrafts and, keepers and dynasty leagues. Obviously, you ain't getting that deal done for, your
that's not.
Yeah, you'll probably have to give up your firstborn son and then some. So, maybe even a night with your wife. So, ultimately, Jackson Holliday value in those platforms are not going to be attainable. But Jackson Holliday in a redraft league, I think, is somebody that you probably could go out there and attain. But Adam, if he's out there, one thing I do like is the home run pace for the pace in the minor leagues. The year before in 2023, only had 12 home runs to 477 at bats. This year, he's shown off the big bat a little bit more with 10 through 266 at bats. When Dom said he could be a league winner, if that power starts, translating into the bigs, and you see those walk numbers kind of tick up, he's going to be valuable in both roto and in points leagues. Jackson Holliday can seriously just take over and be that guy. I just hope it all works out. We've seen a lot of ups and downs with prospects, but hopefully they give him a run, because you know what? I feel like Ellie De La Cruz benefited a lot from coming up, being successful, and then learning and fighting through his mistakes and them not sending him down. So, if Jackson Holliday doesn't pan out this year, he's somebody that we're going to be talking about pretty highly next year that I think we're going to be drafting at a pretty good rip. But anyway, let's move on. I think we spent enough time on him. Let's talk about Shay Landers of the Oakland Athletics. He is 41% owned right now, catcher eligibility. And it's not blow your, knock your socks off kind of week, right? It's three runs, a bomb, three ribs, batting 278. Ultimately, if you're in a position where you need to stream your second catcher, or you need to stream a catcher in general, because that's what I do, at least. I don't like sitting with negative production in my catcher spot. I'll go and I'll put Shay Landers in for a couple days, let him see, at least, keep my batting average at a good baseline. And if he can hit another dinger, he can, because the dude does have the ability to hit the ball pretty hard. On the season, he has 20 home runs already. So, there is a world and a possibility where he hits 5 to 7 to 10 more home runs from now to the end of the season. So there is that upside. But even just in the short term, if he gets you another home run throughout the weekend, and he maintains the batting average, I think it's a great ad just for the short period of time.
Yeah, I think we have a similar opinion here on Langoliers. I might like him a little bit more than you do. I honestly see him being at least a 30 home run guy. The power is super legit. And he's just been getting better as the season has gone on. Over the last 30 days, he's actually been pretty solid with 13 runs, 5 homers, 15 RBIs, a steal, and a 253 batting average. That's the guy Langoliers is going to be, though. It's going to be a lot of power, not a great batting average. And, he actually plays a decent amount for, a catcher as well. And like Dom, plays for the Oakland Athletics. But you know what? If you didn't dig into what the Oakland Athletics have been doing recently, they've been playing good baseball. They've been scoring a lot of runs. They're 6-4 over the last 10. So, the 56 RBIs are real. The 20 home runs are real. 41% owned for Langoliers. And honestly, you could do worse at catcher. And Matt, I loved your point about streaming catchers. I would never like to sit, unless I'm in a deeper league, and then deeper leagues is a different story. But, if you're in a shallow league, you definitely stream catchers. And I think Langoliers is a good option, at least for now.
One last point on him, too, before anything else. Also, Tyler Soderstrom, who's been kind of helping Shay Landers not get a consistent day. He's been, helping him sit more, is actually on the IL. So maybe Landers can at least turn it on and kind of, get a little streaky, and then we can see a little bit more over longer than a couple days. So everything you said, I completely agree with. But move on to the next guy, man.
Yeah, of course, man. And like I said, Shay Langoliers is a great option for right now. Let's move on to somebody I feel like we haven't spoken about maybe even all season. Let's talk some Jake McCarthy. And this is a guy, if you were around I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 at this point, where McCarthy came up out of nowhere, we're stealing bases, and he was a league winner. He was a league winner down the stretch a couple of years ago. And he's back, and he's playing well. Jake McCarthy, I'll give you the season stats. 245 at-bats, 39 runs, 3 homers, 24 RBIs, 15 steals, 294 batting average. And I just feel like it's been done so quietly. Haven't heard anyone talking about Jake McCarthy. Matt, you get all the credit in the world. You brought him up to me, and I was like, you know what? Great name. Love it. Only 5% owned on Yahoo for McCarthy. With those kind of numbers, should at least be 40% owned, I think. A lot of the underlying stuff looks good for McCarthy. The batting average is legit. He's always owned that tool. The speed is legit. 97% sprint speed for Jake McCarthy. He's always owned that tool as well. So I think this is actually a really sneaky, great ad. He might not be the league winner he was 2 years ago, but I think we can rely on him for at least runs, batting average, and steals, and that's 3 of the 5 major categories. Definitely a very sneaky ad right now, Jake McCarthy.
Yeah, he's even going to help you out more in points leagues than I think in like a roto or head to head, unless you have like a doubles category or walks. But like in points, he's a little bit more valuable because he strikes out about 50% of the time and walks 50% of the time. 24 walks on 48 strikeouts. Like, that's pretty good. It's sustainable. The fact that he's batting 294 is also nice. He's hit about 9 doubles on the season through 281 at bats, because obviously he's not playing every day. And is able to also hit 6 triples on the season. So when you do stream him in, because he's not an everyday player that you're going to want to do, when he's hot, you're going to start him. And when he's not, you're going to drop him. But like right now, while he's playing, if he's able to produce in the doubles and triples categories, along with just being able to at least, offset the strikeout negative with a walk, then he's pretty much a solid positive play for you day in and day out, as long as he's getting consistent playing time. So Jake McCarthy, I think, is a solid ad. But let's move on to this last guy here, Orlando Arcia of the Atlanta Braves. Arcia is another one. I was like a kind of like a last minute ad, because we were just like, we really are not sure who to put on this. But, here we are, 9% owned, and he's had a nice week. 2 runs, 2 bombs, 4 ribs, batting 333. Arcia last year was somebody that was performing really well at a high level. And we kind of just watched it drop off in the second half of the season, and it kind of continued. But right now, while he's hot, I'm willing to play him because he's on one of the best league teams in baseball where the production can just take off at any point in time. So when it comes to Arcia at 9% owned, he's definitely a deeper league player. Like I ain't touched him in 8, 10, 12-man leagues, 14, 15-man leagues. That's where I'm going to try and go out there and kind of get him, see if I can stream him. Maybe in a 12-man league if I'm desperate, I need the shortstop. But ultimately, Arcia is somebody that you're going to stream, and then when he falls off, you drop him like it's hot.
Matt, great take with Arcia there. All I'm going to add is that he's 9% owned on Yahoo, very widely available. Shortstop eligibility, so you know what? If you need a middle infielder as well, he can fill that need for you. But guys, that is all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And a shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. But guys, Matt, hop on in. Sorry, brother.
And guys, if you guys want another podcast that is on the Locked On Podcast Network and you want just a little bit more baseball, go and check out our friend Sully at Locked On MLB, a great podcast. Always make him your second listen after us because we're more important. But guys, have a great rest of your day. Peace out.
See ya.